Takadosh Boker or Masechet Shevuot Daf Yomi Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 13a1. So he says like this. You remember we were talking about somebody that was going to be Omed Bemirdo. Amar Bizera. Says Bizera. We're starting today's daf. Omed Bemirdo. We're talking about that somebody that did not do Teshuvah and it's going to Shtav Rebbe. The time as we learned in the Braita, Rebbe says Al Kol Avirot Sheber Torah and all the Avirot in the Torah. Ben Asat Teshuvah, Ben Shelo Asat Teshuvah. Whether a person did Teshuvah or didn't do Teshuvah, Yom Kippurim Mechaper Chutz Mipore Kol Megale Panim BeTorah Mefer Bereit BaBasar. If you remember, we said that when a person comes on any Avera, according to Shtat Rebbe, whether he did Teshuvah or not, Kippur is Mechaper. There's only three Avirot that Kippur is not Mechaper. What are those three? Number one, right, Porek Ol, which means that he's Kofer Ba'ikar, he's going against Hashem. Number two, Megale Panim BaTorah, he's disgracing the Torah. And number three, Mefer Bereit BaBasar, he's not doing the Brit Milah, whether it's he's not doing it at all, or he's Moshech or Lato, which means that he's pulling over the foreskin, whichever one it is, Imasat Teshuvah, there on those three, if he did Teshuvah, Yom Kippurim Mechaper, and if he did not do Teshuvah, and Yom Kippurim Mechaper. Yeah, so he says like this. Yes, only on these three. On everything else, it's going to be Mechaper. Yeah? No, 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 no. If a person has these three averot, it's not mechaper at all. If a person has these three averot, אין מה לעשות. הוא כופר בעיקר. מה הוא רוצה לכפר? לכפר על מה? כי כופר בעיקר. What?
It's not one of these three.
The first shita was that if a person did not do teshuvah, it's not going to be mechaper. Okay? The second shita is shitat Rebbe. The Rebbe holds that Yom Kippurim itself is going to be mechaper even if you didn't do teshuvah, except for three averot. My time at the Rabbi, what's the reasoning of Rabbi? The time was learned in the Braita, ki devar Hashem baza. What does it mean devar Hashem baza? Zeh porekol, right? And it says umgale panim batorah, right? Ve'mitzvato hefar, that's a mefer bri bebasar. Meaning he's learning from, right? He's learning from, right? The pasuk, right? What he's trying to learn is devar Hashem baza is porekol, and also megale panim batorah. Right? And then he's mitzato efar, he's being mefer the brit. Okay? Hikaret, tikaret. Hikaret is before Kippur. Tikaret is after Kippur. So that means even if right now Kippur is passing on these chataim, he's not going to be mitkaper from the ownership of karet because of the sin. So he says, Yachol afilu asa teshuvah. What happens if he did teshuvah? So tamulomar avonava. What does it mean avonava? He says, Lo amarti ela bizman shavonava. That's only if the person is still a sinner, that he didn't do teshuvah. But if he did do teshuvah, mechaper kippur, even on these shalosh chamurim. Okay, so this is, this is where he learned that on these three averot, kippur itself is also not mechaper. On these three, right? Which is again, megale panim b'torah, porekol malchut shamayim, and mefer brit. Okay, v'rabbanan. According to the Rabbanan, that they argue on Rabbi, and they hold that on all the other ones, also in Yom Kippur Mechaper. Meaning this, you have Shitat Rabbi and Shitat Rabbanan. Rabbi is more lenient than Rabbanan. According to Rabbanan, any mitzvah, im lo asita teshuvah, en kapara. Which one? On any avera. Any avera. Rabbi was not davka shalosh elu. Yeah, that's Rabbi. So he says Rabbanan, he says ikaret is ba'olam hazeh. Yeah, he says tikaret is leolam haba. So he says the ikaret means, right, is the olam hazeh. The tikaret is leolam haba. Avonava, he says is mashma that anything that's written here is only in the mikre shimasat teshuvah umet mita memareket. He says if a person came and he did teshuvah and then he died, the mita itself is going to be a kapara even for these avirot. Right? And therefore, it's not tikaret leolam haba, meaning he's not going to come. So it comes out according to Chachamim, these shalosh averot, right, that we just said that en mita mechaperet alem belot tshuva, but all the other averot is mitkaprot with mitat adam, even without teshuvah. Right? So that means, at the end of the day, these three are very, very powerful. Right? So to me, lechule alma, shalosh se, porek, ol malchut shamayim, it's kofer ba'ikar, megale panim b'torah, mefer brito. According to Rabbi, the difference between these three is only Kippur. Meaning, Kippur mechaper everything, except for these three. These three only if you do teshuvah. According to Rabbanan, it's not mechaper anything, Kippur. You need to do teshuvah for every Avirah. So why do I have these three? These three I have because if a person dies, the death is the atonement for other Avirot. Other Avirot. For these three, it's not even atonement death. Even though he died, Kaddish, doesn't matter. He still has these three Avirot. He still has Tikaret Olam Haba. He still gets Karet in Olam Haba. You understood? So it's very, very powerful. If he doesn't make teshuvah, obviously, because if he does teshuvah, then that's it. That even Kippur is mechaper. Okay? Fine.
When you told the teshuvah.
He says, can you actually even say that this part of the Mishnah is Rebbe? Because we wanted to say that the Sira Mishtaleach is mechaper on all other Avirot. So you want to say that this is like Rebbe? Fahami, the Seifa Rabbi Yehuda, from the fact that you said that the Seifa is going to be Rabbi Yehuda, Reisha Nami Rabbi Yehuda. So it's mashma that also the Reisha is also going to be Rabbi Yehuda, right? Because you said that the Seifa was Rabbi Yehuda. So Diktani Seifa. What does the Seifa say? Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohanim ve'echad Kohen Mashiach. Doesn't matter whether it's a Yisrael, Kohen, or Kohen Mashiach, right? That it's going to be mitkaper from other Avirot. So it's going to be with the Seder Mishtaleach. Umanit lelahai svara. Who's this svara? Right? That basically that also kaparat avonot of the Kohanim is going to be with Seder Mishtaleach. It's Rabbi Yehuda. Right? So he says, Miklal the Reisha Rabbi Yehuda. So it's mashma. If the Seifa is going to be Rabbi Yehuda, also the Reisha is going to be Rabbi Yehuda. So everything's Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar Rav Yosef says of Yosef, Rebbe. That part of the Mishnah is also Rebbe. The Sava like Rabbi Yehuda. Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, which means that to do with the people that are getting the kapara with the Seder Mishtaleach, Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, right? And therefore, the entire thing could be like Shitat Rebbe. There's no problem. So Elmaleh Abaye comes and he says to Rav Yosef, right? He comes and he says as follows. What did you just say? You said that Seder Mishtaleach is going to be mechaper even without teshuvah. And the seif of the Mishnah that says that Seder Mishtaleach is going to be mechaper even on the Kohanim, that's Rabbi Yehuda. And Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Davka kamar mor, right? Are you going to tell me that Davka, Rebbe savar like Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda lo savar like Rebbe? Meaning, Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rebbe. Or Dilma, the Rebbe savar like Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda savar like Rebbe. Maybe they both hold of each other. Niu, however, though, Orcha deminta ktani, we're just saying something derech hagav, lemeimar the Talmid savar like Rabbi, that the Talmid holds like his rabbi, and not the other way. Meaning, many times you could say that the Talmid, the student, holds like the rabbi, but that doesn't mechayev that the rabbi holds like the student, right? So he comes and he says, so therefore, if you're going to tell me now that the Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that's fine. But whoever said that Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rebbe, so Elmaleh, he comes and he says, in yes, Davka kamina. I said it's Davka. Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of Rebbe. Meaning, Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda that we said that Seder Mishtaleach is going to be mechaper, right, even on the Kohanim. But Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of Rebbe that the Seder Mishtaleach is mechaper even without teshuvah, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not mechaper without teshuvah. No, the opposite. Rabbi Yehuda is the rabbi of Rebbe. So he comes and he says, Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda that it's going to be mechaper even on Kohanim, because I would say that the Seder Mishtaleach is only going to be mechaper al Yisraelim, not on the Kohen. Kohanim, they have their own korban. So it's nothing to do with Seder Mishtaleach. Says no, Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda that it's also mechaper al Kohanim. So therefore, that Rebbe is going like Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbi Yehuda does not go like Rebbe, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, for the Seder Mishtaleach lechaper, tzarich teshuvah. You have to do teshuvah. According to Rebbe, you didn't need to. According to Rebbe, there was only 3 that you needed teshuvah. Right? Kofer ba'ikar, megale panim v'torah, v'mefer brito, shel Avraham Avinu. Those are the only 3. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, no, he doesn't hold that. That's why it says Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rebbe. Okay?
One exception. It's one particular case.
Well, I'm saying this is only what we're talking about. Saying we're not talking about in general. We're talking about this case. Then the Gemara, the Tanya was willing to the Braita. Yachol ye Yom Kippurim mechaper al shavim ve'al she'enan shavim. He says, I would have thought to say that Yom Kippurim is going to be mechaper also on the ones which are shavim b'tshuva and the ones which are not shavim b'tshuva. So he says, Vedinu, and it's going to be a judgment. Hoil v'chatat v'asham mechaprim v'Yom Kippurim mechaper. So he says, just like it's going to be, right, a chatat and asham are going to be mechaper, and Yom Kippurim is mechaper. Ma chatat v'asham and mechaprim el shavim. Af Yom Kippurim mechaper el shavim. So he says, where is the shita of Rabbi Yehuda? Where does that come from? Meaning, why is it that you need to do teshuvah? So he says, very simple. He says, I would have thought to say that Kippur is mechaper ala shavim ve'ala ein shavim, whether you did teshuvah or not. And it's a kal v'chomer. If the chatat and hasham are going to be mechaper, so Yom Kippurim should also be mechaper. Just like the chatat ve'hasham en mechaprim ala shavim, so to Yom Kippurim mechaper ala shavim. So he says, Male chatat ve'hasham shen mechaprim ala mezid b'shogeg. It says chatat ve'hasham. It's not the same of mezid and shogeg. He says it's only going to be on lechet v'shogeg and not on the mezid. Yeah. He says you only have 3 hashamot and 1 chatat that comes on the mezid. Hasham shivcha charufa, which we actually just read, right, in this past week's parasha. V'shivcha necharef elish, ve'oftelu niftato o chufsha lo nitan la, bikoret tiyeh, right, lo yumetu ki lo chupasha, the end of Kiddushim. Yeah. Then you had Hasham nazir tameh and Hasham gezelot. Right? The Korban Olev Yored al Shevuot Edut. Besides that, all the Chataot and the Hashamot are only on Shogeg. Meaning you only have 4 Korbanot on Mezid. Other than that, all of them are on Shogeg. Yeah, all the Chataot, all the Hashamot, everything is on Shogeg. See? כשיש לך שפחה שהיא נחרפת לי, שהיא מיוחדת לאיש, ובן אדם אחר בא והוא חי עם השפחה הזאת. אז בעיקרון היא כבר מיועדת למישהו אחר. אז זה המקרה. So he says here like this, he says, right, just like the chatat ve'hasham, en mechaprim ala mezid keshogeg. It's not going to be mechaper on the mezid like a shogeg, right? So therefore he comes and he says, tomar li yom kippurim, which is mechaper ala mezid keshogeg. So he says, hoilu mechaper ala mezid keshogeg, yechaper al shavim v'shenim v'shavim. So he says, so it should also be mechaper on the ones that do teshuvah or not do teshuvah. Tamul omar, ach. Ach is chile. So one more time. Let's zoom out. Yeah? One more time. Are you guys listening? Yeah? Let's zoom out. There's 2 concepts here to do with Kippur. First of all, there's shogeg and mezid. You did something by accident, b'shogeg, or mezid, purposely, right? And number 2, teshuvah or not teshuvah. So therefore, what the kal v'chomer here is bringing down is that I know that shogeg and mezid are both going to be forgiven on Kippur. Also shogeg and also mezid. So I would have thought to say that just like shogeg and mezid are both forgiven on Kippur, so too teshuvah and no teshuvah will be the same thing. Talmud Omar ach. When it says the word ach, right? The word ach, because it says ach be'asor lechodesh, yeah? Only, but on the 10th of the month. So when it says the word ach is a mute. It's a minimization, limitation, except for, right? But when you use that terminology, you're excluding something. So what are you excluding? You're excluding that it's only if you did teshuvah. And therefore, you're right. The shogeg mezid, yes.
You didn't do it.
Sorry, what did I say? Yeah. I don't know what I said, but yes, what you just said. Yeah, that you did not do teshuvah. That's what it's coming to exclude. Meaning, if a person did not do teshuvah on Kippur, it is not mechaper. If you did do teshuvah, it's mechaper even on the mezid. Even on the mezid. You did it purposely. It's going to be mechaper. But if you didn't do teshuvah, it's not going to be mechaper. Okay? So says the Gemara, 1 second. Stam sifra mani. Who is the stam which is brought down in a sifra? Right? Remember that sifra, right, is the Torat Kohanim. Torat Kohanim is the midrash on Vayikra. Okay? Which means that, like there's the Bereshit Rabbah and everything, and then there's the Sifra, Sifri, so there's a midrash on Torat Kohanim. Torat Kohanim, why is it called Torat Kohanim? Because the majority of Vayikra all has to do with the things of the Kohanim, all the Korbanot and everything of the Kohanim. So that's why it's called Torat Kohanim. So therefore, he comes and he says, who's the stam? You remember there's a stam Mishnah, stam in a Braita, stam in a, all these stams. Whose stam is there? Exactly. So here he says, right, when it says stam sifra, who is it? Rabbi Yehuda. The Ka'amar, so what did you just say? You said, shavim im, lo shavim lo. You said only if you do teshuvah, it's going to be okay. If you didn't do teshuvah, no. Correct? That's what he said. If you do teshuvah, you're forgiven. You didn't do teshuvah, you're not forgiven. Veremi stam sifra, stam sifra. So we're going to ask a contradiction from a stam sifra to another stam sifra. Right? Because you could do that. Meaning it's like I have 2 Mishnayot. If I don't have a name in the Mishnah, what do we just say? Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. So therefore, I could ask a contradiction from one Stam Mishnah to another Stam Mishnah. I can't answer it's two different people because they're both Stam. That means they're both Rabbi Meir. So the same thing. I have here Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is Stam Sifra. So therefore, if I'm going to come and I'm going to ask a contradiction from one Sifra to another Sifra, so I could ask a contradiction. So that's what he does. Verami Stam Sifra, a Stam Sifra. Yeah, we're going to ask, right? We said already the Braita of the Sifra is Torat Kohanim. It's the Midrash on the Torat Kohanim. Okay? So he says like this. Midrashim, remember, come from the same Tanaim. Yeah, all the Midrashim are the same Tanaim. Okay? So he says, Verami Stam Sifra. The Tanya, we learned to the Braita. Yachol lo yeh Yom Kippurim mechaper, ela im ken itana bo ukrao mikra kodesh. What happens if a person, I would think that Kippur is only going to be mechaper if a person fasted on Kippur and he accepted it, right, mikra kodesh, as a Yom Tov. Velo asa bo melacha, and he didn't do melacha. Lo itana bo velo krao mikra kodesh asa bo melacha minayin. What happens if a person didn't fast? He didn't pray. So that's why you didn't call it the mikra kodesh, right? Ve'asa bo melacha, and he even was mechalel Kippur. How do you know the Yom Kippurim is going to be mechaper? Imagine. Yeah, the guy came, right? He didn't fast. He didn't pray because he didn't make it into Mikra. He did melacha on Kippur. How do we know it's going to be mechaper? Says the Gemara, Tamul Yom Kippurim hu mikol makom. It's Kippur. Kippur is for everybody. Wow. And therefore, it's going to be okay. Wow. So says the Gemara, there's no question asked. Wow. Yeah, he says, you know why there's no question?
זה הקושייה שעלתה לי לגבי גם אם הוא כופר בשלושה דברים, עצם היום הזוהר אומר, לא משנה מה עשה, היום יש לו קדושה שהוא מכפר על הבן אדם.
Okay.
ברור שיש דברים שזה נתקע.
Fine, but that's not halacha. Look at the halacha. There's Gimel and Dalet also. Again, you keep on saying the Rambam. The Rambam keeps on very, very clear. Right? 1 minute. I have to teach you. We're not Shiur Zohar, so I'm teaching you what's halacha. Okay, fine. So it says over here in the Gemara, Amar Abaye lakashya. It's not a question. You know why it's not a question? Yeah? Are you guys listening? It's not a question. Why is it not a question? Harrebi v'Rabbi Yehuda. Again, you're going back to the same thing. Shitat Rebbe is what we just learned. Shitat. No. In this case, no. Meaning the last Braita that says Kippur is going to be mechaper without teshuvah, that's Rebbe. The other one, which is going to come, that's Rabbi Yehuda. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, it doesn't work. Right? Why? You need to do teshuvah. That's stam. Right? Fine. So he comes now and he says as follows. Here he says in the footnote that it's not a stira to the concept of stam sifra Rabbi Yehuda. The kavanat abai was that this Tanai of the two Braitot is in shitat Rabbi Yehuda. Right? But really, be'emet, we know that obviously it doesn't work. Okay? That's the Ritva. Fine. Rava comes and he wants to answer it up in another way. Havehar Rebbe, really both of them are Rebbe. Right? Which means even the one that says that the Yom Kippurim is mechaper without teshuvah, that's Rebbe. And the other one also, that you need teshuvah. So he says, Umodi Rebbe bekaret dioma. Right? Rebbe is going to come and he's going to be admitting that on the averot of karet, of chilul Yom Kippurim is not going to be mechaper without teshuvah. Meaning what you said before about alaesh on Kippur, there even Rebbe agrees that it's not mechaper. Because you're being mechalel Kippur. If it's going to be that you kept Kippur, but you just didn't do teshuvah, that's one thing. But if you're going to take Kippur and be mechalel Kippur, then it's not going to help. And no, doesn't matter. Yeah, en Yom Kippurim mechaper. So he says that's what it means, the word ach, according to the Shita. And if you remember, we already brought down the Yesod. You remember we brought down, this was a Yesod brought down by the rabbi of Rav Shalom Shudron, the Or Yahel, Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman. That Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman, he comes and he says that why is it that if a person comes, it's a Rambam and it's Gemara, that if a person comes and says, I'm going to sin, and then Kippur will be mechaper. Why is it that Kippur is not mechaper? האומר הכתב ויום הכיפורים מכפרים. Yom Kippur is not mechaper. Why? Imagine a person coming right before Kippur. בדיוק. אז הקדוש ברוך הוא מטיל לו מאב, בדיוק. אותו יסוד. Why though? So he comes and he says like this. He explains an incredible yisod. Listen to this. Right? Basically, the concept is, imagine a person right before Kippur. He's going to come. He's going to say, what's the big deal? Let me eat the cheeseburger. Kippur is coming in 2 days. It's going to atone. So no problem. I could do whatever I want. Right? Do all the averot in the world. Kippur is coming. It's going to cleanse me. So he says like this. He says it's the same yisod about the begadim. You remember we said that anybody that's mevazet the begadim lo mechamemim oto. Meaning if a person comes and he takes clothing and he disgraces the clothing himself will not warm him up. Because since he took the clothing and he disgraced them, so it doesn't have the potential of warming up. And that's what happened with David HaMelech. You remember that he cut off the clothing, even though he didn't do it as bizayon. But the fact that he cut the clothing of Shaul, the clothing at the end did not warm him up. And that's why he needed the sochenet to come in to warm up his body, because he wasn't warmed up by the clothing. So they say like this, Kippur is supposed to act as a detriment and in order to mitaher otanu, to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If this person took the Kippur and he used the Kippur to go further away from Hashem, because he wouldn't have done the Avirah, but because there's a Kippur, now he's going to do the Avirah, because I already know Kippur is going to come and he's going to forgive me. So the fact that he went and he was disgracing the Kippur, so therefore what happened? So therefore the Kippur is not going to atone for it. So the exact same yesod is what we just mentioned here. Even if Rabbi tells you, you didn't do teshuvah, you're right. You're still going to be forgiven according to Shtat Rabbi. But he says, but if you're going to be mechalel Kippur itself, right? There, no. No. Oh, well, no, that's another thing. Because that's the person comes and he says that right? Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, you're right. No, but this Gemara doesn't say that. That's what I said from the Rambam and another Gemara. But what this Gemara is specifically saying, but I'm applying it, the same thing. But what this Gemara is saying, basically, that if a person is going to be Mechalel the Kippur, it doesn't work. And I explain to you why. No, Kippur Abba can. Imu shomer et Kippur, כמובן. Imu shomer et Kippur, right? We're talking about that, but that in itself is already teshuvah. So to merit, if last Kippur he was Mechalel and this Kippur is shomer, we're not talking about by accidentally he was shomer Kippur. You have to positively keep Kippur. You understand? He said it's not only just enough mitaneh bo, mitaneh likro bo mikra kodesh velo sebo melacha. Shalosh dvarim. 3 things. You have to fast. You have to call it Kippur. You have to pray and say that this is mikra kodesh. And number 3, you have to not do melacha. So if the next Kippur you did teshuvah 100%. That's like that person was mechalel Shabbat, mechalel everything. He comes the next year, he's chozer b'tshuva on Kippur. אותו כיפור, אם הוא מחלל כיפור, על זה זה לא מכפר עליו.
אם הוא לא צם, הוא לא יכול לתקן את זה באותו כיפור.
No. Any of those 3, which is מחלל כיפור, whether it's צם, מלאכה, right? Here it only says actually in brackets, האוכל או עושה מלאכה. He doesn't speak about the one of מקרא קודש, but whatever it is. I don't know if it is included or not included, but for sure, there's those 2 for sure, right, are a part of it. Fine. Okay. Next, di lo tema'achi. Because if you're not going to say this, karet yom kippurim lerebe le'le. According to that, there's no such thing as karet on Yom Kippur. The Torah says, mefurash, that when a person's mechalel Kippur, he gets karet. It's a Torah. The Bible says it. You understand? In the Torah, it's written. Right? So now, 1 second. How does a person get karet on Kippur? Because he was mechalel Kippur. But you just told me Kippur is mechaper. If you tell me that Kippur is mechaper, even if you didn't do teshuvah, and even if you're eating on Kippur, and even if you're doing melacha on Kippur, you're doing everything on Kippur, so then how do you get karet? No. So says the Gemara, so alama lo, why don't we say that? Why don't we say the be'emet? There cannot be an onesh of karet on Kippur, right? Even if you're going to say Yom Kippur is mechaper on karet without teshuvah. You know where you could find it? Mashkach ala kegon de'avad balayla umit. De lo ata yemama lechapurele. Something incredible. You know what? Maybe be'emet, it was like what we said at the beginning. According to Shitat Rabbi, a person could be mechalel Kippur, and it's still going to be mechaper. But you know when is mechaper? When is Yom Kippur mechaper? the day of Kippur. Ki Yom Kippurim. The nighttime is not mechaper. So says the Gemara, maybe, one second. So maybe what happened is that maybe the guy came and he did the Averot in the nighttime. He was Mechalel Kippur at nighttime. And then he died. So now what happens is that since he did the Averot in the nighttime and then he died, it still didn't come the day to atone. So that's the case where he would get karet. Meaning, again, we had a problem. How could you have karet in the Torah? Because it's written the karet in the Torah. So how do you have karet in the Torah if you just told me that Kippur is mechaper on everything? Even if you're going to be mechalel Kippur. So he says, you know how you could find the case? I found the case. You know why I found the case? He did the Avirot in the nighttime. In the nighttime, it's still not the kapara of Yom Kippurim because etzem hayom mechaper ki Yom Kippurim hu. It's only the day of Kippur that's atoning, not the night. Lo alayla, rak hayom. So if you're going to tell me that it's only the day of Kippur which is atoning and not the nighttime, he was mechalel Kippur on the nighttime, and then he died. So he gets karet. He didn't have the day to atone for him. So if somebody would ever ask you, but it's written in the Torah karet, you're right. The karet is on the nighttime. But once it gets to the day, you're atoned. Why don't we say that? That's what Gemara is asking. Alamalo, mashkach I could find it in a case avad balayla umit, and he died. That he didn't have the day of Kippur to come and to atone. Yeah, he says, "Rak yomo shel yom kippurim mechaper lo lelo ki bayom hazeh yechaper alechem." Bayom, not balayla. You only get it during the day. You don't get it at nighttime. Yeah.
Yom is nighttime.
No, I apologize, doctor. Says on Yud Gimel Amud Bet, karet diyamama leRabbi letle. So he says, so 1 second. So now you're going to tell me then that you can't have karet during the day then? Meaning, according to you, you just did it on Kimta. You just told me that the only way, according to Rabbi, then, to get karet is only during the nighttime. Because he did a melacha during the nighttime, right? He was mechalel Kippur on the nighttime, and then he died. But according to you, karet during the day doesn't apply. So alamalo, why not? I could also find it. Why could I also find it? He says, right? He says as follows. He says, Mashkach Allah de'achal umtza v'chan keumit. He says, you know what happened? I could find you a case of karet. What happened is that he started eating raw meat and he choked on the raw meat, right? And therefore, right, there was, and he died immediately, right? During the day. Or inami, de'achal samuch l'shkiyat hachama de'lo aveshu l'chapur leh. Or he ate mamash by the shkiyah, and therefore didn't have time to be mechaper. So basically what he was trying to say is that he was trying to find two echetinsas that there could be karet even during the day. Number one, he started eating and he choked on the food. Now, the avera is only when he swallows. So therefore, since meaning the chewing is not the isur doraita, meaning the karet is not on the chewing. The karet is on the eating. So therefore, since it got stuck in his throat, and then that's when it came, so therefore he only got the karet at that moment, but he didn't have the extra second in order to be atoned. Or, the same thing, but just by shekiyah. He ate it mamash samuch l'shkiyat hachama. There was not enough time. So therefore it comes out that we cannot say that Rabbi Be'emet is modeh to do the karet of Yom Kippurim, that it's not going to be mechaper without teshuvah. But maybe it could be. We're not sure. But we finished off by actually saying that we're not really sure. Meaning that we can't say one way or the other. Okay, so one more time. According to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, right? According to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, for sure you need to come and you need to do teshuvah. According to Shitat Rabbi, you do not need to teshuvah. We asked about what happens if you're going to be mechalel Kippur in itself. We said, for sure there's karet on Kippur. But we said, but maybe Be'emet, according to Rabbi, he agrees that you also need to do teshuvah to do with this. But the second answer was that really Be'emet, maybe he doesn't agree. Maybe he says that even you don't have to do teshuvah to be, even if you're mechalel Kippur, you don't have to do teshuvah. How do you get karet? He brought down the different answers. Whether it's in the nighttime, whether it's in the daytime, whether you didn't have enough time to do to have the day of Kippur mechaper, right? V'chulu v'chulu. Okay, fine. Next, we're in the two dots. Yeah, Echad Yisrael ve'Echad Kohanim ve'Echad Kohen Mashiach. We said that everybody is going to be together to do with the kapara of Yom Kippurim, that it's going to be mechaper on all three, whether it's Israel, Kohanim or the Kohen Mashuach? Kohen Mashuach is the Kohen Gadol. So says the Gemara Hagufa Kashya. This in itself is a question. Katani, we said Echad Yisrael Echad Kohanim Echad Mashuach. Tani, Ma Ben Yisrael Kohanim Mashuach. At the beginning, you told me that Kulam Oto Davar. Everyone's the same. Yisrael, Kohanim, Kohen Mashuach. We're all the same. 2 minutes later, you come and you tell me that there's a difference between Kohanim and Yisraelim and the Kohen Mashuach. That they're not the same. So what does that mean? So he says, Amar Rav Yudah says like this. Hachi Kamar, this is what it means to say. Echad Yisrael ve'echad Kohanim ve'echad Kohen Mashuach mitkaprim b'seidem shlach b'shar averot. Whether it's going to be the Yisrael, Kohanim, or Kohen Mashuach, they're going to be mitkaprim with a Sina Mishtaleach on all the other averot, except for the Tumat Mikdash ve'kodoshav. Then chiluk b'nehem. There's no difference between them. Meaning, on other averot, kulam oto davar. On other averot, everyone's the same. Kohanim, Yisraelim, right? Kohen Gadol, everyone's the same. Uma ben Yisrael Kohanim. What's the difference between the Yisraelim and the Kohen and Kohen Mashuach? He says that a par of the Kohen Gadol is mechaper la Kohanim al tumat mikdash vekodoshav, right? Because we said that for the Yisraelim, it's going to be the seirei chatat chitzonit v'ampenimit. So for the Kohanim, it's going to be the part of the Kohen Gadol. Which one? No. No, that was a seed, which was, he said, was going to be a primi. This is the part of the Kohen Gadol. Umani, and who is this now? So he says, this is Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. Right? The Tanya is learned in a Braita. V'chiper Migdash HaKodesh, the Lifnai v'Lifnim. Migdash HaKodesh is the Kodesh HaKodeshim. So the kavanah was that it's going to be mechaper on Tumah Migdash, right, which was inside of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. So for example, he was tameh, right, and he didn't leave there. Et Ol Moed is the Hechal, which is the kapara for the Hechal. If somebody's in the Hechal and he stayed there and he didn't leave when he became tameh. Mizbeach is mashmao. He's on the Mizbeach and he didn't leave the Mizbeach and he already became tameh. Yechaper is on the Azarot. He should have left. He didn't leave. He stayed in the Azarot. Kohanim is the mashmao. Right? So he says, Amakal is Israel. Yechaper is the Levin. Ushvu kulan lechapara achat. All of them are going to be one kapara. Shemitkaprim b'sirim mishal b'shar averot. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the shitav Rabbi Yehuda that basically this Sayyida Mishtaleach, which you're going to send La'azazel, is going to be a kapara on everybody. Because we brought down Yisraelim, we brought down Levin, we brought down Kohanim, we brought down everybody. Yeah? Rabbi Shimon says, just like the dam asayid is going to be mechaper, right, without the vidui, so too the dam apar is going to be mechaper also on a kohanim and tumah mikdash v'kodoshav. And just like the vidui of the sira mishalech is going to be mechaper Yisrael b'shar averot, so to the vidui of the kohen gadol on the par is going to be mechaper on the kohanim and shar averot. So you see from here the shitat Rabbi Yehuda is that only to do the kapara of Tumat Mikdash ve'Kodoshav, there's a difference between Kohanim and Yisraelim. Kohanim are going to be atoned with the part of the Kohen Gadol, right? And the Yisraelim with the Seira Pnimi and the Seira Chitzoni. So it comes out that that's the only difference between Kohanim and, right, and Yisraelim. Which one? So he comes here and he says like this. He says, we just said, Amakal is Yisrael. So therefore, to do with the Seira Mishtaleach, everybody's the same. To do with Tumah Mikdash Kodoshav, there you need the part of the Yom Kippurim. Rabbi Shimon Havadai Ushvu. He says for sure it's going to be the same to do with the kapara. So he says my Ushvu the Bnei Kaparani. No, they're all equal. They need a kapara, but each one needs their own kapara. Meaning for sure Yisraelim, Kohanim, Leviim, everybody needs a kapara if they came into the Bet HaMikdash when they were tameh, or they ate kodesh when they were tameh. Everybody holds of that. The only thing is each one needs their own kapara. They're equal, yes, that they need kapara, but each one needs their own kapara. So what's the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon? Why is it that according to Rabbi Shimon, the Seira Mishtaleach is not going to be mechaper on the Kohanim for, right, at all? So he says, since it says, V'lakach et shnei asirim, itkash, you're making a hekesh, just like the Seira Mishtaleach, the Seira nasa bifnim. You're making a hekesh between the Seir which is sent Lazazel and the Seir which is done inside the Bet HaMikdash. So he says, just like the Seir is nasa bifnim, אינו מכפר על הכהנים, הטומאה מקדש הקדושה דכתיבה של העם, so to the seed משתלח is not going to be מכפר על הכהנים בשאר עבירות. Yeah, one more time. How many sa'irs are there on Kippur? One more time. 3. What are the 3? Inside, outside, Azazel. The inside is, which one is parallel to the Azazel? The inside or the outside? The inside. What's the outside? Musaf. The korban musaf. Right? The outside is korban musaf. The inside is parallel. Remember, you have two seeding. One of them, he says, Lashem, right, which is going to be a chatat, which is inside, and one of them is La'azazel. So therefore, he comes and he says this. There's a kesh between the Azazel and the inside. Correct? Because those are the two which are the same. The identical ones. The ones that have to be two. The pair. Everything that we spoke about on Shabbat. Everything that we're talking about. It's always the inside with the Azazel. So he comes and he says, there's a kesh. Just like the Sa'id which is done on the inside is not going to be mechaper on the Kohanim. On Tumah Mikdash V'Kodoshav. Because that was always only for the Israelim. So to Azazel is not going to be mechaper for the Kohanim. But for what? For any of the Avirot. Only the Israelim. Meaning, just like the inside Azazel, the inside Sa'ir is only mechaper on the Israelim and not on the Kohanim, because the Kohanim need another korban, which is a par Kohen Gadol, to be mechaper on them. So to the Seil Azazel is not going to be mechaper on the Kohanim, only on the Israelim, because it's a cash. Yes, it's a cash. So says the Gemara of Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, Amalecha leachi itkush, shiu shavim emarev v'mkomam dumam. Says no. You know why I needed the cash? The Hekesh needed to teach you that they have to be similar. What does that mean? They have to look alike. B'mareh, in the tzeva, in the color. B'koma, height. Ubedamim, in value. That's what it means. Meaning, I needed a Hekesh to teach you that the Seil Azazel and the Seir of the Pinimi should look the exact same. They should look the same value, same height. That's why you needed a Hekesh. Meaning, not to teach you that one is only for Yisraelim and not Kohanim, and therefore the other one is also only Yisraelim Kohanim. No. I make a Hekesh to tell you that they look the same, that they're the same. So, Man Tana Lahad Tan Rabbanan, who's the Tana that said, that we learned in the rabbis, V'shachat etzira chatata shel ha'am, that they came and they did a shechita for a shel ha'am. She'en ha'kohanim mitkaprim bo, that the Kohanim are not going to have a kapara for it. V'ma mitkaprim, how are they going to have a kapara? V'paros shel Aaron, with the part of the Kohen Gadol. I would have thought to say that they're not going to be mitkapru beparos shel Aaron, sharei kvar ne'emar, but it says v'ikriv Aaron et para chatata shelo, right? Me'ata. So what does that mean? En laim kapara. They don't have kapara. As keshu omen yechaper al hakohanim, matzinu laim kapara. We did find kapara, but me'em mitkaprim. What are they going to have a kapara then? Meaning, if the sira panimi is only for the Israelim, because it says the shel ha'am, and the part of the Kohen Gadol is for him ashelo, so it's mashma. It's not mechaper on acherim. So therefore, what do you have for the rest of the Kohanim then? So he says, Mutav shitkapru beparo shel Aaron, sharei utar miklalo etzel beto, ve'al yikapru besair anasa bifnim shlota miklalo etzel beto. Meaning this. If I'm already going to ask you, what should it be atoning for? Yeah, the Kohanim. What should it atone? Should it atone from the Yisraelim or from Aharon? So everyone's going to tell me it's much better from Aaron. Why? Because it wasn't only Aaron. It was Aaron uvnei beto. You remember the first one that I read to you, V'samach shetei yadav, was Ani ubeti. It was him and his household. The second one was Livnei Aaron am kedoshecha. The third one was for Yisrael amecha, right? Yisrael sherit amecha, right? Was for the Israelim. But the first one was for Aharon and his family. Uvnei beto. So he comes and he says, I prefer to say that the Kohanim are going to be part of the one of the Kohen, because it's already hutar miklalo, the one of his family. And they shouldn't have an atonement with a Sayyid, because there has nothing to do with the Kohanim at all. Okay? If you wanted to say, it says, which means that you learn from here that all of the Kohanim are called Bet Aharon. So therefore, when it says in the Pasuk, I could say that it's not only just for him and for his house, it's for his entire tribe. It's for everybody. When it says v'chiper ba'ado uvad beto, v'chiper ba'ado is for him. Uvad beto is not only just his physical house. What? Ba'ado for him, for himself. Ba'ado, right? So he says not only is it going to be for him and for his family. Really, ba'ado v'bad beto is all the Kohanim. So he says, so man Tana, who's the Tana then that says that? That without the par, there's no kapara for the Kohanim. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says it's not like Rabbi Yehuda. As if you told me it's Rabbi Yehuda says, Kohanim yesh lahem kapara b'sira mishtaleach. So who is it then? Rav Amar, it's Rabbi Shimon because he wants to say that en lahem kapara b'sira mishtaleach. According to Shittat Rabbi Shimon, sira mishtaleach is only going to be mechaper on Israel and not on the Kohanim. The seed la'azazel, right? See, it's called the seed ha'mishtaleach. You sholeach oto, right? Sholeach oto la'azazel. So that's why it's called seed ha'mishtaleach or seed la'azazel. So that one is only going to be mechaper on the Kohanim, on the Yisraelim, and not on the Kohanim. So Abaye says no. Why did you tell me that it has to be Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda? Afilu tim Rabbi Yehuda. You even want to tell me it's Rabbi Yehuda? Haki kamar. This is what it say. Me'ata now. En laim kapara b'tumat mikdash v'kodashav. You don't have the kapara in tumat mikdash v'kodashav. Kishu omer, when it says yichaper, it's talking about other Kohanim. So matzinu sheish laim kapara b'shar averot. I found that they do have kapara in other averot. Uchmod matzinu sheish kapara b'shar averot. Just like I found that they have kapara in other averot. Kach yesh laim kapara b'tumat mikdash v'kodashav. They also have in tumat mikdash v'kodashav. B'meh hem mitkaprim. How do they have the kapara? מוטב שיתכפרו בברו של אהרון, שהרי הותרו מכללו אצל ביתו, ואל יתכפרו בצעיר נעשה בפנים, שהרי אותה מכללו. ואם נפשך לומר, but it says וכיפר בדובה ביתו, so he says, הרי הוא אומר, בית אהרון, ברכו את השם. When it says בית אהרון, it's the entire house of Aaron. It's not just the Kohen Gadol in his house. It's Bet Aaron. It's the entire, all the Kohanim are called Bet Aaron, Baruch Hashem. Right? Just like it says Bet Levi. Right? And just like Yireh Hashem. So therefore, it's everybody together. And obviously, we'll continue with Zat Hashem tomorrow.